See, we might, again, not be tempted to bow down to golden calves. I know I've never been tempted to bow down to a golden calf and think it was ever actually going to do anything. But idolatry is very much alive in our hearts and culture. Remember, an idol is anything that takes God's rightful place in our lives. It could be money, it could be power, it could be relationships, it could be career, it could even be good things like family or our ministries, if we elevate them above God. Some verses we looked at in regard to the first commandment, we're going to look at as well in regard to the second commandment. The Apostle Paul in Colossians 3:5, he identifies greed as a form of idolatry. And I want us to look at that verse. It says this, "Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you, sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry." Why does Paul equate covetousness with greed or idolatry? Because, well, at its core, greed is about putting our trust and our hope in material possessions rather than in God. It's basically us saying, okay, if I just had this thing, then I'd be happy, then I'd be secure, then I'd be fulfilled. See, that's precisely what an idol does. That's precisely what idolatry does. It looks to created things to provide what only the Creator can. See, idols are anything that we have made into ultimate things. I mean, think about it. What occupies your thoughts? Where do you spend most of your resources? What do you rely on for your sense of security or identity? If you're looking to identify an idol, maybe ask yourself this: what, if it were taken away, would make you feel like your world was falling apart? See, the answers to these questions, they can reveal potential idols that are lurking in our hearts. In fact, I'll give you some examples of how idolatry, how it can just so easily manifest itself in our modern lives. So the idol of success. When we derive our sense of worth primarily from our achievements, then we have now made success an idol. See, this can drive us to workaholism, if that's a word, to being workaholics, right? To have constant stress and a fear of failure that ends up at the end of the day just paralyzing us. For instance, consider a student who's so focused on getting just absolutely perfect grades that maybe they end up compromising their integrity by cheating. Or a businessman who neglects his family and health in pursuit of just getting that next promotion. These are modern forms of bowing down to the God of success. Next, we have the idol of relationships. So when we look maybe to a romantic partner or our children to fulfill us in ways that only God can, then we're engaging in idolatry again. See, this, what you're doing when you put someone up to that level in your heart is you are putting an impossible burden on those relationships and really just setting yourself up for disappointment. I mean, think of someone who completely just is emotionally dependent on their partner, right? They need constant validation and approval to feel secure and valued. When that partner fails to meet their needs, because they're going to, no human being can be exactly perfect. Well, then what's the result? Is that person that set those expectations feels devastated and maybe worse, maybe they feel empty. See, this emotional dependence, it shows how we can make an idol out of the relationships in our lives, right? Expecting from these relationships what only God can provide. Or consider a parent who places all their hope and sense of worth in their child's success, whether that's academics, whether that's sports, or their career. If the child falls short of those high expectations, then the parent feels crushed. Maybe they see that as a reflection of their own identity and value. This is another way that we can elevate relationships to an unhealthy place, and as a result, turn them into idols that define our self-worth. So these are ways, again, that we can make idols out of relationships. And then the next one is the idol of comfort. So when we prioritize our own ease and our own pleasure above all else, and that's including our calling to serve God and others, then we have made a comfort idol. We've made comfort our God. See, this might look like consistently choosing leisure over service, right? Maybe you're like, I'm just going to stay home and relax and never respond to any kind of service opportunity ever, right? Or maybe it's refusing to step out of your comfort zone to share your faith or to help someone else in need. The next idol I want to talk about is the idol of control. See, when we can't trust God with our future, and instead try to manipulate kind of just every circumstance we find ourselves in. We are worshiping at the altar of control. This could manifest as excessive worry. It could manifest as anger. It could manifest in an inability to delegate tasks, or a refusal to take risks in following God's leading because, well, we can't guarantee the outcome, so why take the risk? That's all worshiping at the altar of the idol of control. And now next is the idol of approval. See, when we're constantly seeking the validation of others, or when by doing so we're changing ourselves to fit in, then we have made human approval our God. And this might look like compromising our values to be accepted by a certain group, or maybe basing our self-worth entirely on others' opinions of us. And then the next I want to talk about is the idol of politics. So when we place our ultimate hope in a political party or a leader rather than in God's sovereignty, we've slipped into idolatry. And this doesn't mean that we can't be engaged in politics. In fact, we should be as Christians. But it does mean that we need to be careful not to equate any political agenda with God's kingdom. Then next is the idol of health and beauty. See, when we obsess over our appearance or physical fitness to the point that it consumes our thoughts and our resources, then we have made an idol of our own bodies. This can manifest in things like an eating disorder, and that it could be that could also be a mental illness, but it could also be addiction. It can manifest as addiction to like exercise, right? Or to spending excessive amounts on cosmetic procedures. The next is the idol of technology. In our digital age, technology can easily become an idol. When we can't go a few minutes without checking our phones, right? When social media validation, getting those points and those likes become our source of worth, then we've allowed technology to take a place in our lives that only God should be occupying. These are just a few examples, but I hope that they at least illustrate how subtle and pervasive idolatry can be in our lives. See, it's not always about bowing down to a statue. Often it's about what captures our hearts, what we ultimately trust in, like what we look to for our deepest satisfaction.